Hello everybody, it is Drama Free Friday. Yeah, all day long I hope. Hey Linda, thank you so much for the card you sent me, the note and the reminder. I appreciate that very much. Very, very much. Hope you're having a good day. Hey Rhonda. Hello Ruth. How's Miss Ruth? I hope you're doing well. I hope you are. It's Friday, right? Yeah, it's Friday. It's Drama Free Friday. We hope. That's what we're counting on. We are counting on today being drama free. Hey Peggy, good to see you. Yeah, good to see you guys. Come on in, come on in. I'm going to, just while we're chatting, hi Dorothy. While we're, Dorothy's after those emojis. She gets the emoji award so far today. She surely does. While we're waiting for people to come in, I have a couple of articles to share with you. They're very similar, and they're both from Cloth Paper Scissors magazine. One was in 2006 issue. I'm going through all of my old magazines of Cloth Paper Scissors and Quilting Arts. I'm tearing out the articles I want and tossing the magazines. So I'm going from a huge stack of magazines down to a very small, probably this much, maybe that much, stack of articles. You're good? Oh good, I'm glad. Hi Connie, good to see you. So anyway, I found, so it's an interesting progression to be able to, I'm kind of bouncing around because they were in order at one point, but they're not now. Going through the magazines and seeing what interests me, and I'm not keeping them just in case my interests changes. It's like, no, thank you, not doing that. Don't have room for the magazines at this point in my life. So anyway, I found two articles. As I said, they're on the same subject, written by two different people, one in 2018 and the other one's in 2006. You had to get rid of yours too. It's just, sometimes it's just overwhelming. And I'll tell you when I really went, oh, get a grip, girl, don't let this happen to you. So when I was helping Elton clean out a part of his house that I didn't know existed. I didn't even know that part of his house was here. And I helped him clean out a section of his house that had magazines. They weren't all his. Most of them were not his. Probably none of them were his. But those magazines went back to the 70s and 60s and all of that. And I'm like, some of them the 80s, If you just start counting at the 80s or the 90s, it's still a lot of magazines. Yes, it's still a lot of magazines. Linda, give Tim a big hello for me. I loved seeing his garden. What was it was it cucumbers he had? What did he have in the garden that you posted the picture of? You've been selling yours in the local hospice. I just don't have the energy to do the selling thing. I just don't. I'm in the downhill stretch of clearing my house out, and I've been doing this almost 11 months. I've been doing this job of clearing out cucumbers. That's what I thought. Tell him I love cucumbers. I love me some good cucumbers. That's great. I think that's super exciting. Hey, Barbara. Good to have you join us. So anyway, I decided if people thought that these magazines were that important, they would have bought them back when they were available. And speaking of Cloth Paper Scissors magazine, which isn't published anymore, hasn't been for quite a while, that hurt my heart when they quit publishing that one. I have to say, I really like that magazine. And Yeah, I don't have one of those either, Dorothy. I don't have a stitcher's meeting. I don't have a hospice thing to sell. I don't have anything like that. I have Goodwill, and they're not too excited about the copious quantity of magazines that I was. To me, they're a copious quantity that I was getting rid of. Okay, Rhonda. Oh, no. Your fridge is leaking. Oh. Oh. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Anyway, back years and years and years ago, I worked for a sewing machine dealer here where I live. This is way back. In the early 2000s, so 25 years ago. Gosh, it doesn't seem possible, but anyway, I was working for this sewing machine dealer, and we put up big bulletin boards in the classroom, which was my area, the classroom. And so we put up these big bulletin boards so we could put different kinds of displays on the bulletin boards, and they were pretty good sized bulletin boards. Anyway, one of the girls that helped out in the store was quite artistic, and so I had asked her if she would help me with looking through the issues of Cloth Paper Scissors magazine that I had with me and make copies of some of the different things that pertain to a certain subject. So she heard the part about certain subject and things, but she didn't hear the part about copy. So she ripped up my magazines, and I'm telling you, I thought it was like somebody had cut off part of my, cut off part of my arm or my foot. I mean, it was just like Anyway, it was fine in the end, because I'm like, once I got over the shock, I'm like, okay, whatever. It was unexpected. You know how that goes? Yeah. That's fine, Barbara. Help yourself. Help yourself. Okay, anyway, let's look at these. So, in 2006, I did not know that this existed. I think it's an absolutely wonderful thing that they're doing, and it's still ongoing, I believe, because I still see them posting on Instagram. And this is Art2Go, and these are Artomat machines, okay? Artomat. And Carla, Cagefish Carla, at one point, I don't know if she's still participating in these, but at one point she was putting art in some of these, and I don't know all the details and stuff, but I remember her doing that. Anyway, what these are is they're recycled cigarette machines. So someone has bought them up and has turned them into a way to dispense art for it. Showcases artists. They're all over the country. You can look them up. They're called Bite-Sized Art with Artomat. See it up there, right? Well, you can see it right here. Artomat, right there. And so the instructions are very specific for how you do it, because the art has to fit in a box that is the size of a cigarette carton, not carton, but the cigarette package or box has to fit that exact size. And so the art goes in there, and then I don't know how they determine where the art goes and all that kind of thing. But at any rate, and then you put your money in here, select which one you want, and pull the lever just like it was a cigarette thing. You pull the lever and out drops your little box of art. But I think it's an excellent use of recycling something. I'm not a great recycler, I admit, but I think this is a really great thing to do. So here are some of the ideas for things that were recycled or created and put in the recycled machines. And around at this point, this was in 2006, Around 400 artists from 10 countries have contributed to the Artomat projects. Pieces are usually priced about $5 and the artists receive half that amount on consignment. When you put in your token, you can select which artist's work you'll receive, but as each piece of art is handmade and unique, there is some element of surprise for the consumer. Okay, so there is a young man who is doing something, and then this is the artist that created the bird. I guess they're trading cards or something. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, they're very cool. Ruth found one in Texas. Oh, that's neat. And so if you are so inclined, if you travel, if you go camping, if you do, like back in the day we did motorcycling, if I knew about this back when we were doing that, although that was a very long time ago now, I would have been on the lookout for these, and you can find where they're located, then you can go and collect art from the different places. So this was in 2006. All right, this one is an article, same magazine, Cloth, Paper, Scissors, and this is in 2018, and this is called Automatic Art. And here's more. Now you can see that they have updated at this magazine or in this location, I'm not sure which. They have updated the look of that machine to make it, I would assume, more appealing as opposed to this one or this, although they've changed the name, the title on them to Artomat, or even this one, but they've updated it and given it kind of a funky art flavor look. Yeah. Hey, Catherine. Oh, Shannon Green created for Artomat. Okay. I didn't realize that she did. That's neat. Yeah, I didn't realize that she did that. Oh, so you picked up 3 pieces of art at various machines throughout Las Vegas. As often as we go to Las Vegas, we should do that. We should do that. I'd love to do that. We go to Las Vegas fairly often because that's where one of Elton's kids lives, who, by the way, is having a scan done today, a medical scan done today. So any of you who will pray or would remember him, I would appreciate that. It's a checkup scan, so I would really appreciate that. So here's some examples of some more things that were done in the Artomat. It's just such a neat way to collect small pieces of art and support artists and support getting more art out into the world. Anyway, so this one, you can look up artomat.org. At least that was in 2018. And of course, it's a few years since then. If you just search Artomat or look up on Instagram, and they probably have Facebook and all that. I don't do Facebook. So if you want to look it up and see what else is available out there, it's a good way to do it. So I wanted to share that with you. Artomat. All right. Thanks, Peggy. You were trying to find other machines. It's like a treasure hunt. I bet it is. I bet it is. Back in the day, we did geocaching. That was Clausman's big hobby for quite a few years, which was great. It was like a treasure hunt for grown-ups, and that's a neat thing. Letterboxing is another one that is along that same line, but you have to use a GPS, and it really is a treasure hunt. Anyway, I thought I would show you these additional canvases that I did. And I told you about this piece of art, although I didn't know where it was, but I found it. And I thought I would show you this piece that I did. And this is a piece of, this is fabric paper. And I promise we will get into the art here very shortly. This is a piece of fabric paper that I did, and I did this a long time ago, and this fabric paper is made from construction paper and Wonder Under and Pellon lightweight interfacing and that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of different kinds on here. I'm going to show you on a different camera so that you can see it really close up. Let's get all the way over here. Okay, so there's a ton of pieces of things on here. This was like 3 different sheets of construction paper, fabric paper. And then I cut it all down, cut some of it into spirals, and layered it up. This was after the sheets were totally created. Put all these together. It's not a super successful piece because the sheets of fabric paper were so similar in value that they all just kind of run together. And then I had other stuff that was on top of this, and I decided I didn't like it, and so I pulled them off the other day. So there was a piece here that was glued on, so I ripped it off, and I think whatever else I had on here came off. Oh, everything else on here is stitched. Like, you guys recognize, anybody that's my age or older is going to recognize this. Hi, Eileen. You just saw your first machine in North Carolina Museum of Art. How cool is that? Did you buy anything? That's neat. Oh, thanks, Rhonda. Anybody recognize what this is? I don't know where I found it. I think it's just stitched on. It might have a little glue on it. You guys know what that is? Anybody? Anybody? And there's a bunch of buttons stitched on here. 45 record adapter. Bing, 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 Eileen, you get the prize. Yes, you do. So you would put those in the center part because it was a big hole of a 45 record, which was about so big. 45 revolutions per minute. And then where the bead is, there was a small hole, and then that allowed you to put it on your hi-fi, right? Yeah. Hey, Shu, good to see you. Anyway, I don't know where I found that. It was in a bunch of junk I had, so I used it. There's buttons. I don't know what this is. This is something I have no idea what this black stuff of this black thing is. I have zero idea. I did this a long time ago, so I don't know what these are. Buttons, beads, yeah. So a lot of things, and then there was some hand stitching. So there's French knots, and there's long, just a long basting stitch around the edge. And then there's a lot of things that are couched on here in between this is all couching by machine. There's a lot of things, fibers couched on here to make divisions. As I was trying to make this I kept trying to make it work better than, to be more successful for me than it was. I did, things that went off the edge, and I made the trim, and I stitched it. I spent 1 billion hours on this thing. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. Hi, Terry. Never owned a record player. Understand. Is Mary here? Oh, Mary is here. Yes. No, we don't want Mary to know about the magazines I was throwing out. You still have a record player? Aw, that's neat, Dorothy. So anyway, this was mounted. It was stitched onto a canvas, a bigger canvas. So it had a canvas, stretched canvas that was bigger. I had stitched it or glued it onto that, and so I yanked it off the canvas, threw away the canvas, kept this piece, and I think that this may turn into a journal of some kind, a book cover. I don't know. I'm not sure what it will be. I mean, it's much more successful when it's cut down, when it's smaller. If it's a book cover, these pieces will probably come off and be recycled into the top. I don't know. Anyway, we may do something with that at some point. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd told you about it, and I happened to see it as I was putting some stuff away. I know you can't imagine how much stuff I have to put away, but there you go. Okay, let's quickly roll through some canvases. These were part of my project that I did. I was going to do a canvas a day for a year. I made it 6 months, so I had 180 canvases, and I would put them up on the wall every night or the next day. Whenever it was done, I'd put them up on the wall. Okay, so that's how they came into being. And so I've shown you, I kept some of them. I did not keep all of them, but I kept some of them. I think it does have a lot more promise as a journal cover than it had as a piece of art on the wall. Yeah, I never liked it a whole lot. Kept it up for years. And you know, when I was going to move, it was like, this is my chance to get rid of stuff. Now I have a complaint. Elton is probably not listening, or he might be. Hey, Denise. He might be listening, and he may chime in to defend himself. And he has no defense, by the way. But he's always saying, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And I'm like, go to Goodwill for me and take this load to Goodwill. And periodically I will bring something here, figure out it doesn't really fit, take it back to the other house, put it in the Goodwill pile, and then his instruction is to take it to Goodwill. So don't you know, every once in a while he overrules me and he hauls something back home that I've deemed Goodwill worthy. Yes, he does. Oh, yes, he does. He did it recently. So I just scooted things around. I thought if it's that important to him, I'll scoot things around and make room for it. Okay, so these were 2 canvases on 2 different days, and I mounted them together on a bigger canvas. So this was January 11th and January 12th of 2012. 2012. Where did I find the stuff he was supposed to donate? It just sort of shows up in the house. Yes, it does. Oh my goodness. Or the other thing is, my favorite thing is if he's over there helping me and I'm chucking stuff in the trash, or I'm putting stuff, you know, it's keep, trash, donate. That's the only 3 categories. And I admit, once in a while, I'll haul something back out of the donate pile, or I'll get something back out of the trash. Just one or 2 things once in a while. It usually goes back into where I hauled it out of. But, you know, it's just like it pains my heart a little bit. So I gotta get it back out, love it one more time. And I remember what my son says, which is, thank you for letting me see this one more time. I'm glad I got to see it. I may take a picture of it, and then I get rid of it. That works for me. That was very sound advice he gave me, by the way. Okay, back to the canvases. So the history of these is very simple backgrounds on both, and I'll show you something else here in a little bit that relates to these. What I was originally doing with these was these 2 things, and I have 2 cats here to show you. These were foam vegetable trays. Okay, can you see how thick they are? It's kind of like foam core, but it's the trays that you would buy produce on. And so I used, these were dogs that I did, and so were the cats that I did in a class with Carla Sondheim years and years and years ago. They were the ones where you just drew tons and tons of whatever. So I did a whole bunch of birds, I did a whole bunch of dogs, a whole bunch of cats, and then you were to pick the ones you liked. And I took that idea and then I taught people how to do drawing by using their wrong hand, or their other hand, not the dominant hand. And it was so interesting, not only for me, but for the people that I taught when I was working through this class with them, that the dogs, whatever the animal was that we were doing, the ones we always liked were the ones that were the wrong-handed ones. So I find that interesting. Anyway, I took those images from the ones that I liked. I have a whole stack of them. Whole stack of dogs, whole stack of cats, a whole big stack of birds. Took the ones I liked and pressed them into the foam. You take the bottom of the foam tray. I have some here somewhere, but I'm not seeing it right offhand. Anyway, impress it with like a ballpoint pen or a stylus or something, and then I rounded over the edges, and I was going to use these as stamps. So I brayered paint on this one and stamped it, and it didn't stamp worth a bean at all. I didn't do it well, and then I peeled it off. I was very disappointed in the image that I got, but I looked at the stamp and I went, oh, I like that. And same thing on this one. And so I decided to keep them. Instead of stamping them on the canvas for that day, I just mounted them on the canvas and went, oh, that works. Yes, that works. So, and then this one, I had the words, I don't know where that came from. It was probably a magazine. And so that's why I put them together as one piece, because I thought they were perfect partners. Okay. So those are dogs. And then at some other point, which was, just the next day or two, January 13th and 14th of that year, I did the cats. And this time, I don't know if I tried to make them into stamps. I don't remember. But anyway, there's one cat, and there is another cat. And again, the captions or the titles, the words came from, who knows where I got those. The Voice of Color, Don't Take Life Too Seriously, You'll Never Get Out Alive. But these are the same things. These are those trays. They are fun to do. Okay. I kind of grouped a bunch of these together. I put them together so you'll be able to see and there's not a ton of them. But anyway, I grouped them together so you'll have all the same subject. This was another thing that was kind of inspired from one of Carla Sondheim's books, where she would put watercolor on a paper, and just random watercolor, let it dry, and then come back and see what you see in the watercolor as it dried. And so what I saw in this was a face, and I had this stamp that said funny face. The funny part about this funny face is that it reminds me so much of one of my grandsons, and because he was the king of goofy faces. He still is, I'm sure. But anyway, that was what, and all of these were there, like these blocks of color were there. All of the block, I think I added the eyebrows, but most of it was already there. I may have enhanced it a little bit, but anyway, that was just found images in March of 2012. So this was done on watercolor paper, and then I mounted it on a canvas board. So that was a pretty easy one to do. The hardest part of these is actually identifying the thing that within the watercolor paper. So sometimes you have to turn it and turn it and turn it and really look at it. Sometimes you have to cross your eyes a little bit, and then you'll be able to see something that's there. Okay, this is another one that, same thing. This was the image that was within the watercolor paper. So I cut it out like this. And I love this saying the quote that was in a magazine or something. Some days you're the pigeon and some days you're the statue. And so I found a little bird, or this may have been, I think that was a stamp. And so I stamped it on this, whatever this is, on its head. This was all part of what I found in that watercolor image. The background is collage and stamping and whatever. Anyway, so there is that one. And this one is the same exact thing, same exact technique. This time I saw flowers within, I didn't put as much watercolor on it, but I found flowers, that's what I saw. And, you know, and they're goofy. You know, you just kind of look at them and they're goofy looking. It doesn't matter because you just find them where you find them. And then I just added the quote, "Earth laughs in flowers." And that was, again, March of 2012 on watercolor paper. These are really fun to do and very challenging if you try that technique of just putting a bunch of watercolor on a piece of watercolor paper and then see what shows up, see what you see. This was the same exact thing. All this watercolor was just slapped on the page, let it dry, come back and look at it, and this image of this cat was very clearly obvious to me. So this, I mean, the eyes were there. I enhanced the whites of the eyes and put in some tear ducts, but the nose shape was there. Everything was there. I did add some squiggly whiskers, but this foot was there, so were these. The body shape was there, and so was the tail. And then I shadowed around it with probably charcoal or something to make it pop off the background a little bit more. And then it just looked like this cat was saying, "Oh dear." So, and I've used this image a lot in a lot of different things. Okay, oh, there we go. Oh, thanks, Barbara. Carla Sondheim is, what Carla does that is so challenging for me and so inspirational for me is that she does things that are so simple and so, maybe simple is not the right word, simplistic maybe. Like she's big about doing cracks in sidewalks and so forth. But everything she does has a very almost childlike quality about it, and that is so challenging for me, so challenging. And so she has inspired me a lot to try different things, a lot. This was again done on watercolor paper and then adhered to a canvas board. I have done this animal also in acrylic. It wasn't nearly as successful, but it was fun nevertheless. Okay, so that's all of those. This one, I just really liked this. It had roses in the background. I suppose that was probably tissue paper, wrapping paper of some kind, and then I whitewashed over it with gesso or something, and then tore borders and put on it. This was one of those roses that I left, and then I think this was part of this might have been a stamp, but I may have drawn it in. I don't know. Too long ago. This was again in March of that year, and I love this. I printed out. You can complain because roses have thorns, or you can rejoice because thorns have roses. And I clearly put the thorns in. Yeah, it's very accessible. Carla's art is very accessible. And if she's written several books and has lots of online classes, and they have a number of artists that I don't know their names, that most of them that they filmed series of classes with. Very interesting people to look at their art. This was another one that I loved. Roses of Picardy, Picardy. It was a piece of sheet music that I took a copy of the cover of it, and this was my mom's brother, half brother, my uncle, and I found his signature on something, so I copied it, and this piece of music came from their house, I think. Anyway, so I put that, and this was from a napkin. A lot of this in the background was from a napkin and just enhanced with alcohol ink and so forth. That was in January that year. This is one of my, I kept all my favorites, but this is one of my real favorites. You just found Carla in a sketchbook revival group of artists. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. This one I love a lot. And this is acrylic or alcohol ink in the background after it's been stamped, and I don't know what all's back there. These images were, do you remember at one point, I think it was Sherwin-Williams did a whole, and they may still have it out there, ad campaign for their different colors of paint samples, and they'd make stuff out of them. And this was, I believe, in a magazine. So these flowers are the paint sample thing, so is the vase. I added this one and this one and that one. But I just love those, so I cut them out and I made up my own arrangement of it, and then added the words creative license to that. But this is one of my favorite ones. I love that one. This is another one. Oh yeah, your mom used to sing Roses of Picardy. Oh, that's neat. That's neat, Dorothy. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool. This is another one that I particularly liked. This is, I know, done with red and black acrylic or alcohol inks. This is an image from some magazine that I found several times, so I cut this image out and used it several times. I love this image. And this stamp I had, which I couldn't even manage to stamp it right side up all 3 times, so I had to do it upside down more than once. You know. Yeah, but this is one I really liked. Another one I really like, like I said, I kept the ones I really liked. This was an image that I think I tried to do an image transfer on a different page. It didn't work, so this was the piece that I tried to transfer. It didn't work, and so I turned it over and glued it down here. Today is the day to bloom where you're planted. And so in the background it has different dictionary things that have to do with blue, and this was when I was doing complementary colors, so it's blue and turquoise, or orange and turquoise. Yeah. This one I clearly was into texture. This is in March. I was clearly into texture. This canvas is so heavy. It has paper in the background. It has tape. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if I can catch it. Maybe here. This is like bandage material, like ace bandage type material, gauze and all kinds of, I mean, it has a ton of stuff in it. And then alcohol ink dripping down to run down and catch the edges or run over the stuff. I wanted it to look, yucky, and it came out that way. And then I wrote time to let the wounds heal, and this was in March of that year, 2012. It was, I think I did this on paper. No, I didn't. I did it on the canvas, but it has a ton of stuff on it, a ton. And so back here it says sterile, about single use, and there's band-aids, and there's bandage material. There's all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, not particularly an attractive canvas, but it's one that's very significant for me. This one, totally different. This is back here. If you can see this, this is a sun. That's a stamp that I created, that I carved. It's, I think it's just a quarter of the stamp. Looking to see if I can put my, I think here. Oh, here it is, right here. This is the stamp that I created. This was the first stamp I did, which I absolutely detested. And so I turned it over and did this one. And I like this one a lot. But that's what's back here in the background. So I only used I used a portion of this to about here, back here. But, and this was a flower, one of the big loopy flowers that I like to do, just cut out of different colors of paper. This, it has some crackle paste on it in several spots. So I think that was probably Tim Holtz crackle paste. Or you can do crackle using glue and acrylic paint. Could have been that. I don't know. And then acrylic or alcohol ink. And one of my favorite things that I got into when I was doing all this was, sorry, it's the light's blowing it out. One of my favorite things I got into was using acrylic paint, white acrylic paint, and putting alcohol, like probably 70 or 90% alcohol in a bottle, and creating my own alcohol ink. It's a wonder I didn't cause myself all kinds of problems when I was doing that, but I just loved it. And I wasn't spraying it, I was dripping it, but it made some of the best effects, that white homemade alcohol ink. And this is the last one, and this was a ton of stuff in the background, a lot of stencils, a lot of, this is those puzzles, seek and find puzzles. Those they're thin, so they make great background material. And then I don't know where I found this, but anyway, life, it's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. Henry David Thoreau. And I found this that went with it. Anyway, that one, that was the first day in January of 2012. That was the first one that I did in that project. Anyway, so that is all of the canvases that I saved out of all the ones I did. Those are the ones I saved. But then I found this week. Yes, I did. Okay, you're gonna just love the fact that I kept all this nonsense. Let me go to the end. I'm going to show it to you. Then we're going to start painting. Okay? All right. And I'm not even sure what this says on here. So I'm going to attempt not to show you all of the things I typed, but I'm going to just kind of leaf through some of the, of course it's going to not cooperate with me at the moment. Okay, here we go. So I found this notebook as I was cleaning out a cabinet this week, and I didn't think I even had this, but this is when I started this project. So here's day one, and so this is when I had a blog, and this was a way for me to blog and do some art and keep myself from going crazy. And so I'm just going to leaf through this. Maybe this other camera will be better. Let's see. Maybe. The color is better, but it's a lot more awkward. So it is the day, it is the process, and it is what I did. I like this one. I debated about keeping this one. This was body language. I love the images of those puffins. Anyway, as I look through this, I'm just going to leaf through some of them, grabbing sections of it. This was what I did on the blog that I had at that point. It was called The Art and Soul of Barb Owen. And so it's all about the different canvases that I did. There's the one of Muppet that I showed you before. I kept that one. But the thing that was kind of interesting for me is that I wrote, because I blogged about it, I wrote the techniques down. So, yeah. You can't see them. Oh, sorry. Thank you. We'll review. Sorry, I didn't switch the shot. Okay, let's go back. I didn't push the button. Okay, so here is, I'm just going to leaf through some of them. Here's the one I showed you today. And so it has the canvas, and it has the description and the why of, why did I do it. There's one I showed you today. So what is interesting for me is that I kept this. So there's another one I showed you today. So I could go back and I could actually see and read what it is that I did. Yeah. So, and then there was the one of Muppet here. Oh well, it really doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a big hunk. There's one you saw today. It's a big honkin' notebook full of canvases and words and processes. This was when I got to day 100, which was pretty interesting. There's one I showed you last week. Yeah. Anyway, so that, and so I'm going day by day. So this was day 128. And then I even got tired of posting them, so I quit on day 134. Although I did go all the way to, it's just not going to work at all today. I did go all the way to day 180, but I got tired of the pressure of the posting, and so I quit. Anyway, that is how many days I actually did on that project. And that was kind of a nice surprise to find that. I didn't think I'd save that. All right. There you go. Yeah, I used to look at it a lot, but then I put it away. Yeah. So there you go. You know what that does when you organize yourself. Okay, we've been doing gnomes. We've been doing gnomes. Are you ready? You looked at your samples? Good, Barbara. She looked at her mixed media morsels. That's a cat hand project, isn't it? She's been doing that for a long time. Crackle with acrylic paint and Elmer's Glue's cat hands mixed media morsel number 27. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know she did that, honestly. That is one of those things that's been around for a while. Yeah. Okay, let's look at some gnomes, and we're going to talk about a few things on the gnomes. And so we're going to put these out here. And things are going to be a little bit more awkward because my switching device decided it wasn't going to work. So we just got to do it. We just got to do it by hand. All right. So here we have the gnomes and one mushroom. And this was the gnome that we were working on, that we shaded and so forth. I'll show it to you close up, show each of them close up here in a minute, a little closer. I was showing you about the shading, and so I finished the other two and got them finished, ready to have some details added to them. And then this is the mushroom that is at this point. So let's take a look at each of these close up. We'll put the mushroom off to the side. Okay, so here is this little guy, and he looked like this one. That's what he looked like before I painted him and so forth. So he kind of looks like he's whistling, which I think is fun. This is the before and after of this little guy, and these were just inexpensive little craft store things. I think they were $2. They were either $2 or $3 for all the 4 pieces. So there's that one. This is the one that we did last time together, and then here's this one. Yes, Cat Hands Mixed Media Morsels is a great place to start art journaling. It absolutely is. Lots of techniques that are very good. So here's the other little guy, and he has some nice fat cheeks, which I like. All right, now, and this is the mushroom. We're going to go through the process of shading and painting this one together. I base coated it, but I want to show you how I got from here to here, just because I think there's a technique on it that I want to talk to you about. Okay? All right. Okay, so let me just rearrange myself here a second. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat in all caps. And pardon my head if I lean over and you get a shot of my head. I'm trying to stay out of the range of the camera. All right, so here is said mushroom. And I know it's a little bit of a weird angle, but it's going to be the best angle for the color for you guys to be able to see the true color in the paint. So here is before, and that's after. Okay, so we're going to use the after one as inspiration, and we're going to paint the before one together. All right, so as we talked about before, I'm using a disposable paint palette, so I'm going to have it off to, and let's see, I'm going to see if I can get this arranged so you can see a little bit better. I have this tilted up. I have the surface tilted up, so hopefully you can see it okay. All right. So what we're going to do first of all is I'm going to paint. I'm going to put some dots in on the texture on the cap of the mushroom. You see how I added some extra dots? So what we're going to do is we're going to use this, which is, this color is Spiced Pumpkin. So I'm going to use that. And I'm also going to use a little bit of Spicy Mustard. And hopefully these are the colors I used, but I don't know for sure. They're close enough. All right, so we're going to put a little bit of, see if I can get it up here where you can see. I'm going to put a little spicy, this is Spicy Mustard. We're going to put a little Spicy Mustard in I don't need much, and this paint is getting really dried out. And this one is spiced pumpkin, so we're going to put a little bit of that, like so. Okay? Okay. And I have water ready to go. And to do these dots, to make it super quick and easy, I'm just going to use a stylus. These happen to be stylus, a set of 3 styluses that were something that Martha Stewart put out years ago. I doubt that you can get them now, but it doesn't matter. There's all kinds of styluses for nail art and different kinds of things. They'll all work just fine. Just pick one. Just pick one. So I'm going to use the middle-sized one, and I'm going to use just plain old water. Nothing fancy. And I'm going to get some paper towels ready to go. And to get dots, a decent dot, to form a round dot and not a dot that has a peak on it like a Hershey's Kiss, but just to have just a flat dot, you need to thin your paint out. And so I'm going to use this size stylus right here. I don't know what size that is, but it's kind of on the lower, smaller size dot. And I'm going to just use some water in my water container, which this is the last time it'll be this clean. But I'm going to pick up some of that, and I'm going to literally stir it into the paint. Okay, I'm just picking it up and stirring it. This is the lazy person's way to prepare paint. Yeah, and there you go. You're welcome for a tip on how to do it the lazy way. Now, if this is running down the palette, I'm at an angle. If this is running down the palette, it's going to be too thin. Okay, too thin. Hello, Alicia. Good to see you. So I've got it kind of thinned out a little bit. Just stirred it up with my stylus. I'm going to wipe that off. And then I'm going to pick up the end, some fresh paint, and then I'm going to try it on my palette. And if it's not running, then it's probably the intensity or the thickness that I want. Okay? All right, so here we go. So I'm just going to pick this up, and I'm going to start dotting on my mushroom. And you can only get maybe 3 dots before you run out. This is a little thin because I see that the dots are wanting to spread a little bit. And if they do, they do, you know. So I stirred in a little bit more paint into my mix. And then I'm just picking up some paint with the stylus, and sometimes I might dot back over one to get a, either a rounder dot or a, you can see on this one up here, this one I'm gonna have to level it. It's better if you do dots that are on a level surface. And you just simply touch the surface. If your stylus starts building up too much paint, then you want to dab it off, clean off your stylus, and do it again. Okay, and they're going to dry lighter in color, and that's part of what we want. Okay, because we're after contrast here. So I'm going to let those live for a minute. And I'm going to do the same thing with this orange color, which is the spiced pumpkin. I think that was the color I used. And let's see, dots. Oh, I used tomato spice and spiced pumpkin instead of the yellow, so they'll look a little different than the other one. I just saw my note. That's okay. You can always come back and add some tomato spice if you want. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stir some water into the orange color. Now, when you're kind of stirring this up, if the paint holds, if you draw through it and it holds the mark, it's not quite thin enough. It's a fine line between too thin and not thin enough. So once I'm picking the stylus up out of the paint and the top settles right back down, it's probably ready to use. So I'm going to clean off the stylus, and then let's go for it and see what. And you can always switch sizes of your stylus. And if you don't do them at the same time, you're going to dot completely differently when you come back to it. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Anybody, I promise you, anybody can do this. You can do it with a stick, you can do it with a skewer. And you can put as many dots on your mushroom as you want. I chose to do these in between the big dots, the big polka dots, but you can do them any way you want. And you can also have some sticking off, you know, like partial dots on the edge if you want to do that. So you can have dots on the edge if you want, or you can just keep them in the middle. Doesn't really matter. Okay? Alright. And some of my yellow ones up here I'm not happy with, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to see if I can make the paint consistency a little bit more. I put a little too much water on some of those, so I'm not getting the coverage that I want. So I'm just mixing this up a little bit, putting the paint, a little more paint with the watery mix I had. Okay, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to redot some of the ones that I don't like so much. So whatever is under that paint, you know, the ones that are too thin, that didn't give me the look that I wanted, it's okay. You know, you just tell yourself it's just fine. It's just added texture. And they don't have to be perfectly round. It is perfectly a-okay that they're not totally round. Alright, and so there is our little dotty spotty mushroom. Okay, we're going to leave that alone for now. Hey, Kathy. Good to see you. Okay. All right. Next up, we're going to move this up a little bit more, and we're going to shade this. And I'm going to do the grass part first because I'm going to try to keep my hand out of the dots. They're going to dry pretty quickly, but it's going to take a minute. And so you kind of got to, you know, give yourself a good shot at making this work. So I'm going to shade this with the light avocado. There we go. Light avocado combined with some, this is burnt umber. Okay, This burnt umber is pretty translucent, and it still works, but it doesn't give you a real you kind of sometimes you need to apply it more than once because it's not quite opaque enough. So that is the burnt umber right there, and hopefully I need to get the palette where you can see it so everything's on the screen here. And I'm going to put some of the light avocado here, and I'm going to use this brush and this brush. So I'm going to use two angled brushes. Does not matter what size they are. I just tend to work with the biggest brush I can. Okay, so I have one that's going to be my working brush and one that's going to be my blending brush. So the blending brush, I think I'll use this one as the blending brush. It has just water that I've tapped off the excess, and this one has been dipped in water. Tap off the excess, and then I'm going to dip the corner of the brush in the paint. This is called side loading, and then I'm going to blend some brown in on top of it to change that green. And if this is not enough of a color shift, I will just keep adding paint to it until I get the color I want. Then I'm going to put that color, the colored edge. I'm going to work on just the back blade of grass back here, and then before that dries, hopefully get my blending brush and be able to come in where that edge is and blend that out. Okay, so it has a softness to that inner edge. And if I get some slopped over on the rest of it, then I just kind of clean it up. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this side, trying to keep my hand out of the dots. The dots up here are pretty much dried now, but as soon as I think that they're dry, so I'll stick my hand in it and one of them will be wet. That's no good. So again, reload your brush just on the long side. The long edge is where the paint is, and then lay down your shading color where it goes, where the thing goes under something else, and then just come back and blend it with your blending brush. And if you happen to blend out all the color, which I kind of did right in here, then I just give it a second. It doesn't take very long. Pick up some more paint, and I'll come back and blend, put down a little bit more shading right on top of that, and blend out that inner edge where the water is. I'll blend that out again. And then I slopped a little bit over here on the stem of the mushroom, so I'm using that clean brush and just kind of blending that in a little bit. I'll take care of that more in a minute. For the lighter green, I'm just going to pick up more, the lighter green blade of grass, I'm just going to pick up more of the green. And I'm going to put that on the just to give it a little bit of something different. I don't want it to be real dark up here, but I like having a little bit of difference in the color. Okay. All right. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is not a technique of perfection. Remember, you didn't, if you chose to get these, this did not cost very much money. So if you try it, and you don't like it, and you throw it in the trash, that's okay. At least you tried. Okay, so I put down the color, and then use the clean brush and just kind of blend it in, softening out that edge so that you you don't end up with the reason for blending that is so that you don't end up with a stripe of color drying on your item. There isn't anything that irritates me any more than if I end up with a stripe of color that has dried just because of my not paying attention to what I was doing. And remember that shadow colors don't turn sharp corners. They turn soft corners, rounded shapes, not sharp corners. You can always come back and add a little bit more to it. Okay? No, you don't get the true color with one coat. That is true. That is true. Okay, so we've got our little blades of grass going. The shading is done. Good enough. Okay, moving on. We are going to use just the straight burnt umber. And I'm going to do the same thing using the same, I'm going to use the same brush, the same technique of loading the brush. So I'm going to pick up you got to be careful you don't have too much water. There we go. It should make a soft blend of color across the brush, and on your palette also, without having a big drip of color. And my dots are dry now, and so I'm going to put that stripe of the darkest color is going to come right up here next to the mushroom cap, and just come right down on the underneath side of the mushroom cap without no space between the mushroom cap and the underside of the mushroom cap. Okay, they are butted up against each other. Okay, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to show you. You know how I am loading the brush now. So, whoop, that was a little close. So I'm going to come in tighter so you can see. So you can see the brown, the shading right up, tucked up right under that mushroom cap. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing. Pick up more of the brown on side loaded on the brush, same way. And I'm going to come, this time I'm going to come up under the cap, the mushroom cap. I'm going to come right up under it. And before that dries, I'm going to take the clean brush and just, it's very little pressure. It's like painting, it's almost like painting with a feather to blend out that inner edge of that paint shading color. Okay, so let's come down here now, and I'm going to use the same thing, same burnt umber. I'm going to come right here because the grass is on top of this mushroom cap here. I'm going to come right up, no space between the mushroom stem, sorry I think I said cap, no space between that and the grass, so the color is right up against okay, so you can see, and sometimes the grain of the wood affects what the color, like the color is showing up darker right here, the grain of the wood grabbed it. So, hey Kimberly. Alright, then we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to come down the other side of the mushroom, and I am going, even though the grass is beneath this, I'm still going to come right down the side of the mushroom because I want it to, the shading will help give it a little bit of a little bit more of a rounded look by having a little bit of that shading. And sometimes you have to go back and forth a little bit. But remember that this is a mushroom, and so it's got lots of texture and interesting little imperfections in it. And so sometimes I'll just kind of let some of it do its thing and just not worry too much about. And I say that, and then I'll come up here and futz around with it, because that is my nature, to be a futzer. And then occasionally you have to go, leave it alone, stop, you know, it's one of those. And then to give this more of a rounded appearance at the bottom of the mushroom, I'm going to come across the bottom a little bit. And then we're going to call it textured and shaded and good enough. Okay? So that's how you do the stem of the mushroom and the blades of grass. All right, next I'm going to shade the cap. Sorry, I got to get over here where you can see it. The cap of the mushroom. Right now it looks absolutely flat. And so we're going to change that and put some color on it. And you'll notice that I did all the dots first, and I did that on purpose, because if you do the shading and then you put the dots on top of the shading, your head goes, what? How can the dots be that color? And yet they're not changing color with the shape of the mushroom. Okay? Okay. You'll understand in a minute. To do this, I'm going to pick up a combination of the cranberry wine, which is this dark red cranberry wine, and a little bit of the burnt umber. So I'm going to pick those up together. Like I brush mixed the green. I brush mixed the green and the burnt umber. That's what I'm going to do with this cranberry wine. Cranberry wine on its own is way too bright, so you got to pick up burnt umber and tone that down. Okay, so we have a toned down color. And now let's start over here at kind of the bottom of the cap. And as I come around, keeping that shading color at the edge. So that's where the shading color is going, is on the edge of the wood of the mushroom cap. And I'm going to go as far as my brush is going to let me, and then I'm going to take that other clean brush and I'm going to blend, and I'll blend out the white spots just a little bit, because I don't want them to be totally distorted in color. But by doing this, what you end up with is the spots that we added, the tiny spots, end up being shaded right along with the shading color, where we're trying to get this mushroom cap to have a little bit more dimension instead of just a flat piece of wood. Although it is a flat piece of wood, you know? I mean, let's be real, that's what it is. It's a flat piece of wood. But I personally like to see how far I can push it to see what I can get it to do. All right, let's see if I can. You got to watch where your color is when you put it down. Make sure that the color, the shaded part of your brush, is against the outer edge of your shape. Come back with the clean brush and blend that out, and I'm particularly working a little bit more where those white spots are so that I don't turn them completely. They're going to go pinkish or brownish, and that's okay. I just don't want to turn them a solid color if possible. If it happens, it happens, you know. And I'm working quickly. When I'm working here by myself, I am taking my time. And I will sit and I will look at it. I will gaze at my work. And then I will go, yeah, that's okay. No, that's not. And you know, when I'm doing it with you guys, I'm trying to move at a pretty good clip so that, first of all, you're not bored to death, and so that you get the idea and you can see the thing finished, start to finish, whatever it is I'm trying to show you. Okay? All right, now this front edge, or this bottom edge of the mushroom cap, I'm going to go over again. You can see how it's darker up here. It's okay to have variety when you're doing something like that. It is just fine to have variety. But you do want there to be a definite, in my opinion, a definite difference in the color around the edge from the color of the mushroom. Okay, so that's should be dry enough, because this is raw wood. Even though it's got a coat of paint, it's still raw wood, and it's still going to suck up that paint pretty quickly. Okay, and then come back with the clean brush. It helps if you have either two different sizes of brushes, or that you have two different colors of brush handles. That sometimes helps you to keep the brushes straight as to which one is the blender and which one is the one putting color down. Okay, so there is our little blended mushroom start to finish right in front of your very eyes. Okay, so with this, I'm going to clean out my brushes a little bit, try to get most of the paint out of my brush, most of the color. I'll finish cleaning them more later, but once I don't have the color coming off, then it's okay to just set them to the side. All right, so what I did after that, after I painted the mushrooms and the gnomes, so here's the other mushroom. Once I painted them, then I sprayed these, they were fully dried. Then I sprayed them with a coat of matte finish, Krylon matte finish, and that just helps to seal the paint a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to play with this. I did not have a chance to try this out ahead of time. We're going to try it and see what happens. If it doesn't work, I'll paint over it and be done. You know, I'm not going to futz with it. I'll just paint over it. I find it easiest to use pens to do this. I used to do all the line work with a pen or with a brush, and yeah, it's like, nope, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to take the easy way out. So we're going to work with this one and see how this works. This is the Micron PN plastic nib. The reason we're going to use the plastic nib is because it is plastic. It's not a felt tip. It's plastic, so it's got more durability. So let's see how this works. Okay, we're going to find out together right here. This is the one that I did first and has been sprayed with the sealer. All right. Let's see if we can pen to work here. If it doesn't want to work, then we're going to go to a paint pen. Doesn't look like this is going to want to work for us. Okay, nope, it doesn't want to work. Okay, so then next choice is, let's try paint pen. Now the reason I was not going straight to the paint pen is because this tends to be a little fatter line, but you know, we're just going to go for it. These are kind of cartoony characters, and so I'm okay with that. And not trying to make them too exact is better than trying to make every single thing perfect. A sketchier look is, in my opinion, is a little bit better than trying to be too perfect. Do you have to do the outlining? Nope, you don't. You can do whatever you want. It's your piece of art. And if you remember, I went around the sides on some of these. I carried the dots on around the side. I'm going to ignore those. I'm not going to try and do anything with that. Nope. Okay, so we're going to come across the, let's see. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the gills underneath the mushroom cap. I'm going to try the PN one more time just to see. I would like a finer line. I want to see if I can make this work. For this, I would like this line to be finer. Being careful, hopefully, not to put my finger in the wet paint from the Posca. Okay. All right, yeah, that I'm liking better for this. It's not going to work for a lot of the things I want to do, but for this it's going to work. For the mushroom, for the little underside of the mushroom cap, I like that. Okay, then I'm going to come across the underside of the mushroom cap. I'm not going to outline around the mushroom cap, just the dividing line between the top and the cap on the underneath side of it. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to divide these blades of grass up a little bit. I am going to outline these two, the grass, all right, because I do need to do that. And I may go back. I'm figuring this out as I go along, guys. Because I do need, I think, let's try it. What the heck? You know, what the heck? I was trying to avoid, you know, taking the risk of falling off the edge of the shape. And it's okay to do kind of a hit and miss sort of situation. I'm not going to do the bottom of that, I don't think. Letting it kind of wiggle and be imperfect. Lends to the cartoon sketchy look. Alright, let's go around the edge. Again, seeing if I can keep from falling off and yet being kind of right on the edge, close to it anyway. Not trying to do a solid line. Okay, so here is our little mushroom. And we have one more blade of grass. Okay. Now, one of the things that I like to do for the bottoms of things like this is to, here's the bottom of the mushroom, there's the blade of grass, here's the mushroom stem, there's another blade of grass, mushroom stem, another blade of grass, and so forth. Okay, using your imagination. And one of the things that I like to do is to add the suggestion of grass at the bottom of things like this. Now clearly you're going to fall off the edge over here because that doesn't exist. So you can only go as far as that little blade of grass is. But just putting in some little lines and lifting the pressure as you get to the top will make it look a little bit more like it has grass that is coming up from the bottom. Alright, let's see how it works on the wood. And I am wearing this, no, it's doing okay. Okay, let's try it and see what happens. But let the lines go in different directions and be different heights, okay? And it doesn't have to be all across. You can have some gaps, that's just fine. I'm hoping I'm not going to stick my finger in wet paint here. And every once in a while put in a really long one that goes off at some crazy angle. Okay, I'm going to have to turn this so I can get to it. Okay, good enough. And when you're doing this kind of stuff also, let's see, do you see how my pen is angled up? Like this is the top of the mushroom. My pen is angled that direction. And you do the same thing if you're doing it using a paintbrush. Angle that brush. If you try to go straight like this, you tend to have the blades of grass tend to come out more the same length all the way up. If you'll angle the brush a little bit and kind of think of flicking the brush or the marker, you'll have thinner tops on your grass. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so there is our little mushroom guy completed. I'm not going to do these guys on camera because I need to have these right under my nose so I can really work on them. But some things I wanted to point out to you on these. Remember the thing about the dots on the mushroom cap? This, I dotted this with the same color that I put in his little boots in. So that's dotted all the way through on the red stripes. I chose to do red and gold stripes so I could carry the gold up here from his belt and the red from his nose up here. And then I went back and I shaded the edge of the hat and the edge of the stripes after those dots were in. Okay? On purpose, so that it would give the illusion of a slouchy hat that went around his head. You see how thin he is. I want to create the illusion of roundness, so that's how I achieve it. On the little boots on this one, there are actual little buckle shapes drawn in on these little figures. So you can see the little buckle shapes there. I ignored those, painted the boots, and dabbed a little bit of thinned white paint on it so it gave him a little bit of a furry look. Then I came back and I painted with a tiny little round brush gold buckles. I don't know what color they should be, but I painted this iridescent gold fine. And then when that was all completely dry, then I shaded, and so that's the shading color is right over on top of that buckle. So even though it shines through as gold, it still has some shading color on it. Okay, so that's on all of that. To get this roughly appearance of his beard, it's just exactly like what I did on this one, which I showed you on the video. I just did more of it so it made it look really roughly instead of just like he had, you know, tufts of hair coming down. I made it look very roughly just because I thought that would be fun, you know, it would be kind of fun. All right, and on this one, I painted the spots on his hat, and that was how they were lasered or etched or whatever on his hat. He had spots. And so I wanted to carry the red from his cheeks and everything. He didn't have anything else red on him, so, and the other guys had red on their hats. So I painted his spots in the tomato spice red, and then I dotted the spots with some of the blue and the green from his boots and his coat. And once that was all done and the dots were all dry, then I came back and I shaded around his hat so that I got some of the shading onto those spots. Again, to give the illusion that it had kind of a slouchy look about it. So there's that. And I ruffled his beard, but not quite as much as this one. So they would just, you know, have some variation. Then this guy right here, I went back and put some blue from his coat. I put some blue patches on his hat. There was one that was kind of indicated. I guess it's a patch. I don't really know what it was. This thing, I'm assuming, was a patch, but I don't know. So I put some of the blue on in different places up here, and then I went back and shaded, used the burnt umber and shaded the edge of the hat over the tops of those patches. So again, it didn't look like there was blue just stuck on to his stuck on his hat, you know. Okay, so that is how those little guys came to be. So you can see, even though they're laying down at an angle, you can see kind of the idea of how they're done. And then they will look different once they once I add the details and the sketchy outlines and stuff. They're meant to be cartoonish, and so don't get one of the big things that people do on painting, no matter what it is, and I am no exception. I do the same thing. I'm trying to find my mouse so I can get back here so I can talk to you. one of the things that people do when it comes to painting things is that they get, or it doesn't matter if it's painting, it could be collage, it could be a sewing project, it can be, you know, mixed media, whatever, is that they get stuck on any phase in the project, and they go, oh, I don't like that. Oh, that looks terrible. Oh, I can't do that. No, I'm terrible. I'm awful. And what you really want to do is to push on through that, because every single thing, it doesn't make any difference if it's sewing, if it's slow stitching, if it's painting, if it's collage, if it's a $3 project like these things are, goes through the ugliest phase imaginable. And you go, I have totally screwed this up. This is never going to work. It's never going to satisfy me. It looks awful. But okay, two things. Either keep going or set it aside and go away for a little bit, and then come back, go get something to eat, go get something to drink, come back and take a look at it again afterwards. After a while, you'll see it with different eyes, and you will be able to go, now what was it I was so upset about? Like, you know, the orange dots are too orange. Well, la-ti-da. So put a thin coat of something over the top of it and keep on going. Okay? All right. Any questions so far? Okay. Thanks. All right. So now we have the house. We have their house because they want to live. They want to live in this little house. Unrealistic as it is, they want to live in this little house. Even though they can't fit inside this house, they want to live in this house. Okay? So remember, this is what they're going to do. They're going to live kind of like, they're going to be kind of like this, and a whole lot of what's behind them is going to get covered up, and it doesn't matter, but you don't know exactly what's going to get covered up. And so therefore, you got to paint. You got to paint the house, the details in the house. And then behind the house, we're going to have mushroom trees. Okay? So we'll have a mushroom tree like that, and we'll have a mushroom tree on the other side. And, you know, if I had a third mushroom tree, I'd put it in, but I don't. So, you know, we're going to have two. Ideally, I would have two big ones and a small one, or something like that. And if Claus Man was still around, you know, I'd say, could you go cut this out for me? And he'd go out and he'd Edward Scissorhands something out of wood, and Bob's your uncle, he'd come back with it, and that'd be that. But he's not here anymore, and so we have to make do. We have to make do. Okay? Okay. So here is our little house. My vision is that it will have a thatched roof. It's going to look thatched. It's not going to be really thatched, but it's going to look like a thatched roof. And I have just base coated all this stuff. I've just brush mixed gray and two different browns and a light brown, and I've just brush mixed it so I have this background. And I want to know what you guys think. I just want your opinions, because I'm not sure if I'm going to do stonework on this cottage. I kind of am leaning towards stones, you know, like big, you know, the big stones. What do you call that? Anyway, big stones for a stone cottage. It's kind of what I'm thinking, with a thatched roof and maybe a brick chimney. I'm kind of thinking about that. Another option is to make it look like it's a tree, like it's like this is in a tree, although there's nothing that suggests that this is a tree. It would make more sense to me that it was a stone cottage. And I'm not sure how I'm going to achieve the thatched looking roof, you know, but we're not going to glue any stuff on it. I'm just going to paint it with different colors of things and all of that. You think stones would look good? Oh, okay, Ruth. Okay. Let me know. Let me know how you are and how things are, if you want to. That would be great. Okay. Big hugs to you, my friend. So, stones may be a possibility. Rhonda says stones. Dorothy says stones. Okay. So here's what I did. I took a piece of tracing paper. We used to do this when I was doing oil stuff. And we would take a piece of heavy tracing paper or vellum. Back then we called it tracing paper, but it was heavier than regular tracing paper. This is the heavyweight one, the premium from Hobby Lobby. And so I just laid my shape down here because it is a 3D shape, and just drew around it with a pencil, and then just sketched in the roof line and the stone for sure, Ruth says. Okay. And then I looked up online because, you know, as we are prone to do, I looked up online gnome. Oh, I have to show you these first. Let me show you these first. These are in our front. These are in our front garden flower bed. Okay, I have to show you these. The birds planted these, so this has nothing to do with the gnome house. Nothing to do with that. Sorry, I'm trying to get it zoomed in so you could see. The birds planted these beautiful sunflowers, and they are tall. Okay, and look at this. This is the end of the sunflower's life, and I just thought that was absolutely stunning. And there's a butterfly right up here on the edge of that one. So I'll show you this series of shots I took. I took these this morning. Look at that butterfly on that sunflower. This is the complete life cycle, and I've already zoomed in when I took this picture, so it's not fully focused, but it's the whole life cycle of the sunflower. So you've got one in full bloom, you've got one that's really gone, and you've got another one on the back side that's in. This one right here is coming. This one is blooming. This one is the back, so the sunflower is turned away from you, so I can see the back, which is very interesting on the sunflower. It's the whole life cycle of the sunflower. And this, I thought that was so stunning, and seeing all of the greenery on the back side of the sunflower. Isn't that something? The birds planted these. And these, this one I did because I wanted to see the side, you know, the sides of a 3/4 shot, a profile, you know, that kind of thing. And here's another shot, just so, because I was so fascinated with how the butterflies, there's a butterfly here on that one and a butterfly up there on that one. And I don't know, they are stunning. And this one, what's interesting about this one is to see the center of that sunflower. I'm going to show you another picture in a second, but there's two more, the one that's going away. But I find the center of that sunflower fascinating. And then I just took some pictures of the leaves of the sunflower because they're really big. Okay, so the one I want to show you is this one. This is the center. This is that same sunflower before that middle part opens up. But look at the texture of that center part of that sunflower. I just thought that was so amazing. Dorothy says she lived in a stone cottage with a thatched roof for a few months after they were bombed out in World War II. Wow. Oh yeah, we didn't try to grow these. The birds planted them. They surely did. Um, okay, so I looked up online gnome houses, and there's a gnome house made of stones. I thought that was really quite cute. I like the stones. Look how colorful the stones are. So that's a good reference. And then this one is that's a gnome house, but it's in a tree. But I think the stones would be a lot nicer. Yeah. I know they are fascinating, aren't they? Yeah. Yeah. So, but there's a thatched roof and the stones around. So anyway, I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. So there you go. So what I have done is as I showed you, I have sketched it out like so, and then I can sketch it out as many times as I want, can't I? And I have a pencil at the ready. Once I decide how it is I want this to be on my little house, because it's going to take me some time to figure this out, because I'll do that. And then when I'm done, I'm going to take a white watercolor pencil. This happens to be the Arteza brand. I'm going to use a white watercolor pencil, and I'm going to just sketch the design on here. I'm not going to transfer it with transfer paper and that kind of stuff. I'm just going to sketch it with a white watercolor pencil, and then let the watercolor pencil dissolve, let the lines dissolve as I work on this with the acrylic paint. So that is the plan for this. So this is the actual size. You can't always do the actual size on a project, but for this, that was absolutely possible because of the size of the house. So it was, and the house was already pre-done for $5 and whatever from Hobby Lobby. No, Rhonda says, am I able to do art outside of the lives on YouTube a lot? No. No, I'm not. And it's killing me. Honestly, it's not killing me, but it's beginning to get to me, shall we say. Yeah, it's beginning to get to me. Barb needs to do two things very badly. One, art. Two, journal. Yes, Barb needs to do some of those things. I have to be quite frank with you and tell you that I am very, very tired. I'm very fatigued with making decisions about what to keep, what to throw away, what to give away, what to do with this, what to do with that. I am so fatigued with that. And yeah, so I work on it for a while, and then I finally just say I can't do it anymore. But I am now at the point where where we lived in my house, we primarily lived in the lowest level of the house. That's where the kitchen, the family room, the dining room, the laundry room, and one bathroom was, and Clausman's office. All that was in the lowest level of the house. And so there was a lot of stuff there. And I've gotten through all of the family room area, the dining room area, and the storage part of it. That is all, has all of my stuff out of it. There's still some furniture, but all the stuff is out and decided about, and it's out of the house. And so I'm now going to tackle the kitchen, which I've already moved a lot of that stuff out. But the fatigue is real. The fatigue is real, I have to tell you. Yes, it is. Oh, yes, I plan to be here Monday. There is coming up a couple of weeks where I will not be here, but that's in July. I will let you know. It is a good feeling. It is. It has taken me out of the routine. It has, for a while, I was able to move at a pace that I could move things over and figure out where they went, put them away. So for a while, I was able to do that. And then I lost control of that. And so then I started moving things and just having to, put them in a closet, put it around the edges of a couple of rooms, so that we could still, it wasn't a hazard for walking and tripping and that kind of stuff. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. And you do the best you can, and I got to just keep on pushing, because I'm at that dangerous moment of wanting to just stop and run away. Can't do that, right? Got to keep pushing. I'm close. I'm very close. So my every week I think it's going to be done this week. Everything's going to be done this week, and the longer it goes, the less time span I have that my energy holds out. But I'm doing okay. So far so good. Anyway, thanks for asking. So we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it done. Elton is busy for this next week, so he'll be in and out of being here, but he's going to be busy, and so I might get more done, might get less done. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for being here, Mary. Thank you to each of you for being here. I'm so glad you were here. And I will be back Monday. The plan is to be back Monday at 7 Eastern in the evening. And until then, I hope you guys have a great weekend, a great week, whenever you're watching. Do something nice for somebody else. It will give you perspective. Definitely gives you perspective. And yeah, it's great. I have one cool thing to share with you, and then I'm going to go. Many of you remember Elton's nephew and family that adopted the little boy from Serbia. They adopted him when he was 2.5. He was 2.5, and it was about this time of the year that they brought him home from Serbia. He had been in a crib. He had been drugged, perpetually drugged. He has Down syndrome. He had been drugged to keep him quiet. He was in an orphanage. He had not been fed very much, and so he was not in good shape when they got him here. He couldn't hold his head up. He could only lay in their arms, and they were just feeding him, just trying to get weight on him because he was so very radically thin. And watching him develop, we thought, oh, he's, I don't know that he's ever going to be able to, what is his future going to be? So if you give me just a second, I'm going to show you this is a miracle, and I'm going to show it to you. So if you give me just a second. Okay. So this little boy, remember what I just told you, where he came from. Okay. And I'm going to show you this. And she posted it, and Mommy posted it online, so I'm assuming it's okay for me to share it with you because it's posted online. And we all need to celebrate this together, okay? This is the little boy who could not hold up his head. This one right here. He is not only standing, but he is walking. Now, he's not super happy about it sometimes, but he is walking. And that is literally a miracle that we never thought. See? Moving his legs, arms supporting him, and he's walking. And this little guy right here is his brother, who is a week. They're a week different in age. This was a biological child. This is Rusk, and he is their biological son, also with Down syndrome. And this is the little boy that they adopted from Serbia. Yeah. Now, if that doesn't warm your heart, I gotta find my mouse. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Here it is. If that does not warm your heart is made of stone. Yeah, that's an amazing miracle. I'm telling you. The future for this little guy, don't put limits on him. Yeah. Don't put baby in a corner, right? Thanks for indulging me and seeing that miracle with me and celebrating with me. He is my main man. He is my main man. All right. I'm going to see you when I see you. Until I see you again, remember to get creative today. Do something nice for somebody else, and I will see you before you know it. Okay? Bye for now.